Good Friday afternoon, evening, or Saturday morning, wherever you may be. Victor, you're welcome. There you are. And we're back
Hey,
here. There we go. So, Friday. It's Friday or Saturday, potentially, where you are. Right? It's Friday where you
I
are.
don't know. Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, by the way, if you're here with us live right now and you're new here, go ahead and type new over in the chat. If you don't know who we are, my name is Darren Pope. This is Victor Farsick. He actually has a drink today. I am just bottling my water today. I haven't made a grocery run yet. We are the co-host of a podcast called DevOps Paradox. And on Fridays, we do this thing called DevOps Paradox Live. And we talk about things that we saw in the past week. And sometimes what we saw that happened right after we finished last week, which we'll talk about one of those things today.
Sometimes we probably invent stuff as well.
We invent stuff a lot. Isn't that what you're supposed to do on the internet, is just invent things?
Exactly.
Okay, good. I was just making sure. Making sure we get our roles right here. Okay, so let me go ahead and get everything set up here to go with the next important things, which is not that, but it is this. Number one. Oh, wait, before we get here, I lied. I can't believe I lied. You poked at me about that last week. This week's podcast episode was about containers is containers as a service serverless. Say that twice fast. Hopefully you've listened to that. If you haven't listened to it, go listen to it this weekend in all your spare time. What do we think? Is containers as a service serverless?
It is.
Okay, that's what I thought. It is.
Is it good? No, it's not.
Okay.
Will it be good? It will.
Okay, so define good, because good is very relative.
Let's say that on average, it's immature. Either too complex to be considered, serverless.
Yep.
Serverless as in, I don't need to think about stuff, right?
Right.
Or it's too simple to be used in production. So, and there are some excellent examples as well, but generally, I think that we are just at the beginning.
Yep. But the key is, one of the phrases you just said there, and I can't repeat it because I don't remember it now, but it was the key part is so from a developer perspective, containers as a service could be serverless if you've got a great infrastructure team underneath you to provide that level of service to you. It is possible, right?
You mean self-hosted?
Self-hosted.
Yes. If you're, if you're a small company, small team, you're not gonna have a department who is gonna manage all that. Go cloud, just use the service. That's it. And then if you're a big company, you probably already have too many departments, and one of those too many departments is managing this tool, and the other one is managing that tool, and somebody can manage and provide you containers as a service on-prem or self-hosted. It doesn't have to be on-prem though.
Well, they could even provide it via the cloud. It's just a service that I'm using. Who cares where it's running? That's all we care about. So, but if you haven't listened to that episode, please go take a listen to it. It is in alignment with sort of where we wrapped up with our courses, which are going on right now for catalog. So serverless was part of it. Next up is security. So if you haven't bought the course yet, go out to DevOps Toolkit series, or if spend money, thank you very much. You can either go directly here, or if you're watching this on replay, or whether you're on our website at devopsparadox.com, look right below and you will see some links off to go buy the things, and it will take you where you need to go. But anyway, now let's get to the news. I got a little aggressive up front. Visual Studio Codespaces. Why are we... This is like almost... Well, we didn't do it last week, but almost 2 weeks in a row to where we've said nice things about Microsoft. Why are we doing this? Because
they're doing cool stuff. They're doing good stuff, and they're acquiring good companies. I think that Microsoft is doing awesome stuff. A lot of legacy stuff that I don't want to see ever again. So I'm not saying everything Microsoft is great, but this is one of the... let's start with Visual Studio Code itself, right? There is not... Nobody should use anything else as IDE. It's awesome. Eclipse? Are you going to say Eclipse
No,
or JetBrains?
no, neither.
Okay.
I was going to say JetBrains.
JetBrains, yeah, okay.
But I'm paying for it then, right? And
Exactly.
there is something that I'm expecting out of it. So I do have a paid subscription for JetBrains. I have the all you can eat, so I pay I think 140 or 150 US a year. So it's not a lot. But I'm also not doing day-to-day development, and it's becoming less and less necessary for me. Now, the one thing that I do a lot of, which is really sad, is writing a lot of ASCII docs, like ASCII doc format. And that's really, really good in IntelliJ, and I haven't figured out how to get it right in Visual Studio Code yet. But it's
too complicated ASCII doc for me. Does it mean that I'm stupid or?
No, it's complex. It can be complex. It gives me more power than Markdown in general, but that's not why we're here today. Anyway, we're not talking about Visual Studio Code specifically. We're talking about Visual Studio Codespaces. Now, if you haven't watched the video on this, holy crap. Right? This is pair programming at its finest. Right?
And it's even misleading, the name, because it makes you think it's Video Studio Code in a way, which it is, but it's actually full development environment. They give you kind of the full development environment, everything you need to develop through Visual Studio Code, right? But I don't know, compilers, this and that, everything. You get everything. It's amazing.
Yep.
Now, and it's amazing because if my MacBook Pro would break right now, I would buy a Chromebook. Honest to God.
Yep.
I would buy Chromebook because Visual Studio and my tools when I work was the only thing that prevented me from not having a powerful machine when I travel.
Yep. So like in this case, it is not free. All right. So let's get that right up front. It is not free. But if I'm let's say I'm active, heavy data processing workload, I'm using a premium size, which is at 8 cores and 16 gig of RAM. That's more the machine than I have now. And I'm up 40 hours a week for a total of 730 hours. I pay $20. $20 is less than a MacBook Pro.
That's a week of work, right?
Yes.
No, active hours.
Well, that's a month. So 730 is a month.
Okay, I'm not sure what is the difference between active hours and total hours.
I don't know. I haven't looked at the total hours yet.
Anyway, let's say that the worst case scenario that it's really 40 hours. It's a full week for a price of what, 2 coffees in US?
Yeah. Yeah. And here's the thing too, is if you're actually working at a startup to where you're working 100 hours a week, then it's still only $4 more. Not even $4 more. It is becoming hard to justify spending big money on desktop machines. We're almost getting back to just having virtual terminals. We're almost getting back to green screen now.
I mean, in my specific case, I'm not ready to give away my desktop. Actually, today arrived my new desktop, to be honest. I'm in my particular case, which is not in everybody's, it's more like kind of, actually, the reason why I bought desktop this time and not a new laptop is because I feel now that I don't need a powerhouse when I travel. And I travel a lot, right? You as well. When it's not a crisis situation with Corona and all that stuff.
You just said the word. Don't say the words. Keep going.
But even for full development, like desktop, it's useful, right? And even if you do have a powerful desktop, laptop, whatever, it's still kind of let me not think about it. Kind of, I get, for a small amount of money, I get full development environment on whatever I need. It's amazing.
Now, this is something I didn't catch until right now. You can create it in the cloud, or you can do self-hosted. There is no charge for self-hosted. Now, obviously, you're paying for the licenses to do self-hosting, right? You're still paying money. But self-hosted, that could be interesting. Not that I would want to, but interesting.
That's, again, I guess, difference between small and big companies. If you're talking about 1,000 employees, then maybe it makes sense for somebody to set it up.
Well, and this is always our point. At what point is the tipping point? I might be able to write an app and I can do everything functions as a service until I cross over that magical threshold to where I'm paying more now running functions as a service instead of just running a container in Kubernetes or whatever that is, something a little more long running anyway. So start where you're at. Once you figure out what that threshold is, move away, keep going. Okay. One more thing while we're here. Another nice thing about Microsoft. Azure Cosmos DB serverless is now in preview. Right? What's up with this? Because this is the one that you added. I didn't take a look at this one.
Yeah, so the idea is to make it serverless in terms that it's not a DB that is continuously running and they're charging you, for full month, 24/7. It's basically they charge per requests, right? Or hundreds of requests or whatever the exact model is.
Right.
And now this will not really, it would make no sense to replace a database with heavy load. But everything that is not heavy load is, why not? Kind of like, why not have somebody take care of it and you pay for what you use? And even when it's heavy load, right? This is now kind of the issue I think that we're still having is that you have something in production, it's this heavy beast with a huge traffic and stuff like that. But there are 12 other instances of that something in staging, in integration, for pull requests, for your local development, for each person. So even if you have a heavy duty database, which this wouldn't be a good case, then in all the stages before production, this makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is what they're going through here. Right?
Exactly.
Development, testing, prototyping, proof of concept, non-critical. Now, we're not talking huge money, right? Here's an example here. Provision throughput, whatever, $30, right? It's not breaking the bank, but instead of $30, it was $5. Well, that's 6x. I mean, when you're looking at $5 versus 30, most of the time, nobody's going to complain.
And it's one of those cases that if you put this in production, let's say that it would make sense. It doesn't, but still, probably the price would be 10 times more than the first option, right?
Right.
When it's heavy load, just like FAS.
Yep.
But when it's sporadic, yeah, baby. I think it's great. Now this is the first iteration; it will not work perfectly, and there will be problems and all that stuff. And whenever somebody says it's for this and this and that use case, but not production, that means that they are not confident fully for that.
Yeah.
But it's a good direction.
Microsoft.
I think it's
Azure.
amazing.
Azure. Actually, you get
Great job.
2 thumbs up today. So
2 thumbs.
Now, I think AWS also had a version of serverless for their databases for Aurora, but I haven't looked at that in a very long time. So I just wanted to mention it in case you're an AWS shop. That might be something comparable to this, but I'm not sure. Okay. Next big set of announcements. And no, it's not. Thank you, Alexa. It's not about KubeCon. It's about Hashi. They announced a new business tier for Terraform Cloud. Okay, that's whatever. Pretty cool. One of the big ones, especially this is what I run into for a lot of people, is being able to have single sign-on via fill in the blank. We see Okta a lot. We see Auth0 a lot. But this is pretty cool. But now Okta seemed to be their primary, so they just made it simple with Okta. Good idea. Here's the one I liked, actually beyond liked. 13 came out. Now, we just missed this last week. 13 fixes a bunch of stuff. I'm still working through a few things. But this is the key part here. You can use Terraform login, so you can just use Terraform Cloud. Very, very, very easy. So, fixes to modules, all the other things that normally make life much easier. And then finally, if there's not enough about Hashi, most people don't care about this. They got SOC 2 compliance, or SOC 2 Type 1. This is a big deal. Big deal, as Victor has a drink. If your company doesn't have to deal with this level of accreditation, don't worry, you soon will. So congratulations, Hashi, on all your stuff that came out this week. Now, this week, unless you've been living under a rock, was KubeCon Europe, right?
Yeah.
I haven't watched any of the replays or anything else. I saw a lot of people sort of tweeting or saying other things. It's like it's stepping back into Snow Crash because the experience was interesting. So we'll see. But anyway,
I haven't seen much myself. I think that I've seen 1.5 keynotes and one talk only.
So we're just mentioning this here. We're not actually going to deconstruct KubeCon because I haven't watched anything. You saw a little bit, but not enough. But there's been a lot of announcements over the week that were in alignment with what was going on and where it's sort of heading right now. One of the ones that came out was hierarchical namespaces.
I cannot stress how important that is. That's probably something that many people will overlook, but it's huge.
Yeah.
Having a flat structure of namespaces is just not enough for any larger organization. It's enough to, let's say pull requests. Yeah, are we going to create a namespace in the same level for each pull request? And that would require you to have admin permissions because, but being able to kind of have some kind of cascading effect, it's the same idea like directories, folders, right?
Yeah.
I can create a namespace, my stuff, and then say I'm admin of my stuff and nothing else. And then within that, I can split it in sub namespaces. It's just something that it was cooking for a while now, and it's really, really exciting that it's in.
That'll be in 19, which is scheduled to come out next week, right? Or is it available for even 18?
That's the version that you, dear listener, is probably likely going to have in 1.5 years by the rate you're updating your clusters.
Yeah. So could hierarchical namespaces go completely wrong, go completely horrible?
I mean, of course they can. This is still early iteration. It will take time until it's polished and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But it's public now, so it's about trying it out and report bugs. Let's fix it and all that stuff.
Yeah. Oh, hang on a second. You know what? I'm not even on my right camera. There we go. I knew I was looking weird. So hierarchical. What I'm concerned about is people going 16 levels deep. That's.
No. That's going crazy. That's abusing stuff.
Yeah.
That's the similar thing like when people split an application into 1,700 microservices, and each team has 500 microservices alone to manage. And you go crazy.
It falls apart. So anyway, that's hierarchical namespaces. Could be very important. Now, the other thing that's going on this week, or within the next week, I just checked right before we went live, is it still hasn't launched, but 19 is coming in next week. And we've got 2 posts here, one from Sysdig and another one from StackRox.
That one.
Huh?
That one, the first one. This one? That's the whole. Yeah.
Why is this a big deal?
Because, I do think that people should be updating stuff on quarterly basis, which is more or less the rate at which new minor releases of Kubernetes are being released. You pick to be 3 behind, and then you go with the same rhythm. I think that's great. But simply for a lot of companies, that's just supporting last 3 releases, if I'm not mistaken, is just 3 quarters. Is just not too much. Not enough.
Not enough.
So extending it to a year gives a bit more breathing ground for those who cannot really do it that frequently. It might be actually misfavor, to be honest, because it might give more incentive to keep being slow.
Right.
So I'm not excited about it personally, but I think that many companies are excited. It gives them 1 quarter less to to wait.
Yep. A warning mechanism for deprecated, which we'll talk about on the stack rocks. This is
okay.
Go ahead.
I'm not going to talk about it if you're going to talk about it later.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we'll talk about it in a later, and then also the beta and some other just things. These were the ones that that Sysdig believed to be pretty big. Of course, the big one here was the 1 year window, which is fine. And this chart was interesting too. Of anything that's blue is vendored, in case you can't see it, and then anything that's yellow is non-vendored. Well, most people are still running at 11.
Thank you, Red Hat.
Sadly, there's still a very large number sub 11, right? At least you got 12 and 13, but geez, these have been out of date for how long? A quarter, 2 quarters?
Here's my theory. Vast majority of companies are not upgrading their systems unless they're forced to. So actually, this graph in my head represents, the level of adoption of Kubernetes by year, kind of.
Yeah.
So the 1.6, that's how many people adopted Kubernetes when it was 1.6. And that's how many people adopted in a year when 1.7 was released and stuff like that.
Okay, so let me correct myself just so I don't have to issue an errata later. This survey was conducted in 2019, so I should read this. The graph below, back then only 11 and 13 were still being supported. So this was back when these were still the hot ones. These were when they were still live. So I correct myself. But regardless, it's this tail right here. You okay?
And if you would find the graph magically now that is current, the situation didn't change drastically. There is a huge amount of those running OpenShift based on Kubernetes 1.11. Huge.
Yep. That is true. So anyway, so that's this one. But let's go take a look at the Stack Rocks one. They had a couple of other things that were interesting. Ingress going GA.
About time.
Well, exactly. I had completely forgotten that it wasn't GA because I just use it all the time anyway. SecComp goes GA. It's good. Yeah, good. TLS 1.3 support. Very important. No debugging and mission webhooks, blah, blah, blah. But now we get into the notables. Actually, the notable deprecations. Let me blow this up really good. Actually, let's go 2 more. Right here. This is the one. Things are being deprecated in 19, and they're going to be removed in 22.
And that's less than a year.
That's less than a year.
Sounds like kind of, I have until 22. That's less than a year.
It's 3. Is it 3 quarters? 1, 2, 3. It'll be a year. So 19 to 22 is four releases.
But I don't know whether it's in this one. What I'm excited about is that the deprecation notices or warnings are popping up more frequently now.
Yeah.
Before, when you deploy something that is deprecated, right, apply a resource that is deprecated, you get a warning. Now you get a warning when you do like kubectl get ingresses, right?
Right.
And the warning pops up. So there is a more chance. Now, if you're deploying frequently, actually that is problematic, right? Basically, regarding deprecation, people who are doing stuff manually are better off than people who have things automated.
Yep.
Because when you're manually deploying your application and you kubectl apply, and then it turns up and you get the warning, this deployment version, API version is deprecated, and you do something about it, right?
Yep.
Now, what happens when everything is automated? Everything is Jenkins or Bamboo or this or that, right? You will never see that warning.
Right. Never.
You will not know that it's deprecated unless you change something and try it out manually or go through logs, kind of. But nobody goes through logs if everything works.
Right. It's going to be interesting. Is this the is this the side effect of Mirantis not wanting to pay for? No, actually, Mirantis doesn't pay for Docker Hub, but Docker Hub deprecating all the images. This is the next step beyond that to the apocalypse, right? That's...
No, images is still it will fail after the deprecation when it's really removed, and you're gonna fix it. But the image is not being available. There is no fix to that. I mean, there is a fix. Write an email to the maintainer or start managing your own images.
Bake me a new one. Next one up. This was interesting. I've seen some chatter about this, and it's the AWS controllers for Kubernetes, also known as ACK. What is it? In fact, I even saw Kelsey Hightower talking about it. But basically, it's a way to use the AWS native services within Kubernetes without anything weird, right?
Is it use or manage? Manage, right? Create, update, delete.
Yeah, let me get down there to it. Hang on a second. Right here.
Exactly. Yeah. This is where it's going. Now, this is the thing. I would like this API, but I don't necessarily need Kubernetes.
We're going back to this again.
Yes,
right?
we are. Yes, we are. Because how am I going to manage my Kubernetes from Kubernetes? There is the chicken and egg problem, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, it's a good thing. It's a great thing. I would just like that. I have the dream fantasy that Kubernetes API will be extended to be API beyond Kubernetes.
Yeah. The example here for the S3 thing was whatever it is, get buckets. It just feels weird to say get buckets inside of kubectl. But it's what it is. This is a big deal, I think. Is this a big deal or a huge deal?
I mean, to me, probably for most, it's not a huge deal. For me, it is. I got used to Kubernetes. I like its API. It has its flaws. It's too complicated, what's not. But I would like to be able to manage everything through that same API.
Yeah. And
that would mean that is that kind of the next thing after Terraform, right? Potentially.
Yeah. This is right now, it's only in preview and it's only supporting S3, messaging, ECR, DynamoDB, and API Gateway. So it's very, very small, very limited, but goes back to day one. What existed first? S3. So if it works with S3, eventually it's going to end up everywhere else. So we're talking about RDS and Elasticache as well. Those would be the big ones, I think. And what was the other one? Oh, yeah, and then their Kafka solution as well. I forgot about that. Considering support. Yeah, and this is what you were asking, what Kubernetes managing Kubernetes? That's what they're saying right here. We're also considering support for EKS and Kafka. So this is...
Yeah, but how am I going to create Kubernetes for the first time?
Yeah, it has to be created once, right? You got to do it once.
Yeah.
And then final bit of Kubernetes news this week is around GKE's Dataplane. Now, back in episode... what was it? Episode 56 with Phil Estes. We talked some about eBPF. And whoops, I did the wrong one. Hang on a second. In this one... So this is just an old school thing. It's a new Linux networking paradigm. So what's happening is they're introducing GKE Dataplane V2, okay, new buzzword. It's a data plane that harnesses eBPF and Cilium. Have you worked with Cilium before?
Yes, not in detail to judge it.
Okay, well, too late to judge it. It's going to be in production for GKE. So by the time you marry these two things together, it's talking about enforcement. So I could easily log all of my outbound traffic. Maybe front end is allowed traffic outbound from the network, but that back end, no way, no egress. So now not only do I have to rely on no longer do I have to rely only on my infrastructure people to get my borders right around my gear. Now within my cluster, I can keep my borders in place and know about it.
Which is the right way to do it.
It's the right way to do it. Least privilege, right? We need to, but it was near impossible prior to something like this. So you can try it today. It's beta with the cluster. You just say, enable Dataplane V2. Off you go. Let's see what breaks. Put your application in there. See what breaks. That's a great way to start out an application, isn't it? But it should be locked down, right? Unless you need to get to the internet, there's no reason for you to leave your cluster, ever.
Yeah, I mean, that's a correct logic. I never liked that, but from practical perspective, because in most of the situations I was in, that meant that I need to open 17 Jira tickets and wait for 7 months, right?
Right.
Now, if you apply the logic that everything is locked by default, and there is an easy way for me to decide what should be opened, I'm all for it.
Especially if it can be declared declaratively. Yeah.
It's almost kind of, it would be part of my application stack definition, right?
Yeah. I was going to say, everybody starts out with deny all, and then the approvals happen. That's it.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Perfect sense.
Wow. That was painless. If you got some questions, go ahead and put them over in the chat. I'm sure we have more to talk about. I want to go back to that Visual Studio Code, Spaces, real quick. Did you actually look at the pairing videos that I sent? Did I send them to you? You didn't?
No, I just went hands-on through single user type of.
Yeah.
So how if you just work on the same code as if you're working on, let's say, Google Doc, right?
Exactly the same way. And in fact, now the video was from a couple of years ago, but one person was working inside of Visual Studio. One person was working inside of Visual Studio Code. So all of my rules applied to my IDE. All of your rules applied to your IDE. It was very cool. But
very cool. Especially now that we are all remote, or most of us.
Yeah.
And significantly bigger percentage of us will continue being remote. Things like that, such way of collaboration is, it was always important, but now it's, I really prefer, maybe because I'm kind of lone person, that even in an office, I prefer to sit at my desk instead of looking for you to work on something. But now that we are separated physically, it's a great thing.
Yeah. I think probably the people who would help the most are people that didn't already have like maybe a good TMUX way that they were working together, or however. There's always been ways to solve this. But if you were used to working in a pairing situation, which most companies I go to still don't do that. But if you were, and now you were forced to be separated, and you didn't have a good TMUX way of doing things back then, this might be at least a working answer.
But that's the direction where we are going, right? Yeah, I know I can do that with TMUX, and I can do this with that, and I know all those things, but I really don't want to waste my time. Whomever for a reasonable price gives me a solution that saves me from doing things I shouldn't be doing, and allows me to focus on what I should do, that investment is always good, as long as the price is right, of course.
Yep. So you're talking towards developer tools a little bit, right? Or developer productivity.
Okay, everybody's developer, so everything is developer tool.
Okay, so we need to bring Patrick on to talk about this. Patrick has some very interesting angles on this.
Actually, let me rephrase. Everybody is a coder. Everybody writes code.
Thank you. Okay,
we can agree on that, right?
Yes, we can agree on that.
Lately, I've been saying app developer. Like when I want to really describe somebody who is really writing code of an user-facing application.
Yes. So
But even that is kind of like, so if I manage a service in a company that you will consume as another employee of a company, right?
Yep.
And I do that through code, am I a developer?
You are a developer, but you may not be an application developer. Application developer to me means that you're producing something that someone else is interacting with directly.
Like
That's
you.
how I do. Well, not if, like, so if I'm creating a desktop app, client server, I'm an application developer. If I am creating a Terraform web app, I'm an application developer.
So if I create you a service that will allow you to actually create VMs in my data center, I'm an app developer.
In that use case, the answer is yes. Yes, in that case, yes, you are. That's correct. But if I'm doing tooling for myself, I am not an application developer.
Yeah.
It's just not. It's all in the perception of who is the end consumer.
Everybody writes code.
Everybody writes code. Yes.
Yeah. And YAML is code, counts as code. Oh. It counts.
It does count. If you know how to do spaces, it's just like writing Python. Spaces or tabs, you don't have a choice. It's spaces. Right?
Tabs should be legal. I would fire a person who writes code with tabs. Fortunately, nobody ever gave me a power to fire people, so you're safe.
Yeah. What else happened this week? There were a lot. I was trying to find any other types of things that were happening. KubeCon was really sort of the big, and I saw some other tools announced and blah, 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 but it wasn't that big of a deal in my perspective.
No, nothing really. I mean, the thing is that nobody can follow anymore, so who knows what happened. A lot of things happen.
Oh. There is one thing I did see yesterday. Hang on a second.
The one you showed me. The one about developing stuff, for app developers. Is that the one?
That's not what I'm talking about, but I will bring that one up as well. But this is what I'm going to bring up first, and then I'll bring that one up next. Let me share the screen. I had to go find this. This, to me, was very interesting. If I can find the share button again. Where am I? There I am. So Amazon extended the support of their distribution of the JDK. Not just by a year. Not just by 2 years. But by 2 years and 11 months. Almost 3 full years. For 8, and then the same for 11. I want to read into this because 8 is... When's the EOL for 8? You don't even do Java anymore. You don't care.
I don't do Java. But I have a question, precisely because I don't do Java. I don't know if you know the answer, somebody listening. Is anybody using this?
Coretto? I've seen a little bit of this, not a lot. I've been seeing most people, if they're moving to OpenJDK. Most people are still...
I don't know if it's me or you froze.
Did I freeze? I'm back.
You're back.
Okay, sorry. So from my perspective, it was most people are still using OpenJDK. If they're moving away from OpenJDK, most of the time they're going to adopt OpenJDK. I've seen 1 or 2 people go towards Coretto.
Because, if I'm going to go from OpenJDK, right?
Yeah.
To something that is obviously very specifically AWS lock-in that I don't know how, but somehow most likely, right? So, and there is nothing wrong with that. And this is my question, is there a value proposition? Kind of like, what is the why?
Well, let's figure out the why.
What's the awesome part of it? Does it bake coffee?
Well, it's backed by Amazon with no contract support.
Okay, just like OpenJDK, no contract support. Excellent.
Well, yeah, but okay, I'll stick with that. Production ready, that's fine. Multi-platform, blah, blah, blah. No cost, blah, blah, blah. So the problem with OpenJDK right now is it's still tied to some Oracle licenses. As I understand it, I am not a lawyer. Please go consult your attorney before listening to me. Right? It's those kinds of things. So if this is truly no strings attached, then that's good. That's what Adopt OpenJDK is going for, is the no strings attached. So, but I haven't tried it yet. I need to. The other thing that you were just talking about, let me see if I can find, I thought I turned that off. It was it tilt.dev? Boy, I should, here, let me not share this while I'm looking.
I think, yeah.
Okay, here, just talk amongst ourselves real quick because I don't remember.
Blah, 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 blah.
No, I'm still here.
How are
Blah,
you
blah, blah. Oh, yeah, it's this one. Okay. I learned a long time ago you don't do certain things live, and that was one of them. I saw somebody mention this the other day, yesterday specifically, and I'm still trying to get my head around it. But there's this concept of a tilt file. And they were basically pushing, it's like, yeah, you could use remote, but just use Kubernetes on your laptop and keep going back to our, we don't need much power. But, you know, if your app is small enough and the profile of your app is small enough, then K3S might work. Oh, I did see K3S went to CNCF too.
It's similar to Scaffold, right?
Yeah,
except
a little
that
bit.
Scaffold gives me a vibe of mostly being abandoned.
Yeah.
And this might not be yet.
Yeah. But they've got best practice guides around. Let's go to Go, right? I'll go to your favorite language.
Yeah.
So blah, 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 short feedback. Kubernetes is a huge wrench in the works. Let's fix this. Simple server that uses Go templates to serve HTML. Okay, well, it doesn't get much simpler than that, right? So here's super simple.
Up.
Yep. I got a Docker file. I got a deployment YAML file and the tilt file that has the reference to said things.
Yep.
And then if you want to make changes to your app, it's sitting there and watching it, and it's just deploying it out.
Exactly.
So
Scaffold.
It's Scaffold. But whatever.
Except the Scaffold last time I checked did not support Helm-3. And then I said, I'm not going to go back until they do. Maybe they do now, but at least last time I checked they didn't.
Yep. It does live updating. So this looks interesting. It is open source, but there is a paid side to it as well, if I remember correctly. Yeah, enterprise. Big green buttons.
Yes.
The green buttons mean pay us money. Green is money.
Yes, green like green.
Green like green.
It's okay, kind of like that's the model I like. I like free tools because when I play around with stuff, I cannot afford to buy every single tool that I find, and I find a new tool every single week. And then I use it in my company, and why not pay? They need to get some money so they can buy food and continue developing. That's a value proposition. It makes sense.
Yep. So this looks interesting. I'm hoping to... I was talking to Victor before we started today. This is the one weekend I have no editing to do, so I might be able to play with this weekend. Which means we're recording a lot next week.
Oh, yeah.
So this looks interesting. I mean, we'll see if it's as simple as tilt up. Strange name. Might be amazing. We'll see. How's the security stuff coming? Have you started on that yet?
No, I made another detour.
So let's talk about the detour, because you did post on the DevOps Toolkit series YouTube channel, which I need to add a link to that, about Knative, right? Is this the detour, or is there another detour that I didn't know about?
So Knative was the last part of going serverless, all the permutations of serverless, right?
Okay, so give me we talked about containers as a service, not ready for prime time, blah, blah, blah.
Except GCR.
Except GCR. except GCR,
Yes.
which is still true.
Yes.
Which was really cool when I finally got it working. I could not get it working. I was messaging Victor, and then finally I realized, oh wait, I don't have my billing set up correctly. Got the billing in. Hey, it works perfectly. Okay, great. Would you put a Knative cluster in production today? A Knative based cluster in production today?
Not in production, not necessarily. I mean, but not. Let's start with this: that I don't think that anything should go directly to production, right?
Fair enough. Let me
it goes in stages, right? So yeah. I would definitely. The biggest value of Knative, no-brainer, kind of like not thinking about it. If you're building and deploying pull requests, use Knative.
Okay.
For a simple reason, because most of the time you're not really testing or reviewing deployments resulted as pull requests.
Right.
Staging as well. How you're not really running tests in staging or integration environment 24/7. You're probably utilizing it 5% of the time, and I'm being generous, right?
Yep.
So Knative, again, let it shut down. And then if that works, kind of like, and this is now the trick. If you, let's say that you have staging and production, that's your flow, right? Mm-hmm. If you put it in staging and that turns out to work fine, then move it to production. Now, if it's going to break when you move it to production, that means that you have no good reason to have staging because you're obviously not validating your application before it goes to production, which can be a good strategy, but then you don't have it staging it at all, right? But yeah, I mean, but it's always kind of like, not with Knative, with anything. I would not never make a decision. Let's take all our applications, hundreds of them, and transport them from one day to another to something else. But it is good. It works fine.
So it's so on the continuum of okay to great, it's in the fine area right now.
Yeah, it's somewhere in between okay and amazing. Yes.
Okay. All right. So that was my side. Now what is your diversion that I don't know about?
So the next one should be about security.
Should be.
That's the plan because people voted for it. But then Zarvis, one of the guys from the Slack channel and stuff like that, wrote a chapter about logging.
This right down here?
That one, yes.
That one right there. Okay.
Yeah, was kind enough to contribute to chapter about logging, which I was ignoring because I wanted to finish serverless. You know, my logic Kanban, I do one thing at a time, right?
Yep.
So finish serverless. I check his stuff. It's cool stuff. It's about using Loki as Elasticsearch here.
Yes.
Loki instead. It's awesome. It's great. And I wanted to, do my stuff on top of what he wrote, publish it, and then go to security. But, and now this is a twist in the story.
Oh, sorry.
Security might not be next after that either.
Okay, why not? Wait, why not?
I cannot reveal yet. But there will be some changes, personal changes that might lead me to a different direction. Who knows?
Will it be security related?
Might not be.
Interesting. Okay.
Everything will be revealed next week.
Oh, next week. When you talk to most people, it's like, oh yeah, we'll get to it in a few weeks, maybe a couple of months. No, Victor it'll be done next week.
Yeah. Kind of, how long do we live now? Until the 80s, 1890, kind of, I don't have all the time in the world to waste months on something.
It's true. Okay. Well, I guess we will find out next week because obviously I didn't know this was coming. So that means I might not be editing audio, but I bet I'll be editing words. Okay, there you go. All right. No other questions in today. Well, everybody's being quiet again. What is up with that? Nobody.
It's vacation time. I don't know why I'm not. That. So I don't understand why I'm not on in vacations and you.
Well,
I don't know what's the vacation period but this is the month. In Spain, nobody works. Nobody
August,
works.
right? It's all shut down. Yeah.
Nobody works. The planet stops. The country stops unless you're in tourism.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, and the schools did start here this week. Depending on what school you go to, you either go fully virtual, you might go 1 day a week, you might go 2 days a week.
Or
but you're talking about vacations? Huh?
You might do homeschooling.
Well, most people are. Yeah, because there's already been a few schools that have already shut down for 2 weeks because of clusters of the unnamed thing popping up already, even after our first few days. So it's rough out there. But it's the why I don't take vacation. I've never taken vacations. It's just something I don't do. Never have.
I do. I love vacations.
Yeah, we didn't grow up taking vacations, so it doesn't mean I haven't gone and done things. I've done things, but I've just never taken vacations.
But yeah, I want to take, but I cannot take vacations. That's my problem. And I cannot take vacation because vacation is not a vacation if you don't go to a tropical island, exotic country, somewhere far away. And I cannot go far away.
No.
And going to woods next to my house, that doesn't count as vacation. And camping doesn't count as vacation because you know what happens when you go camping? When you lift your hand like this, margarita doesn't appear in it. It just stays empty.
Wait, here.
It stays empty.
Look, I'll give you full screen here. You can do that again. So say it again. So you go out, if you're camping.
When you go camping,
yeah,
and you do this, margarita does not appear in your hand magically.
Okay.
That's a big downside of going camping.
Okay. I was actually
unless you have, I don't know, maybe you have a wife who is watching your every move, or a husband, and then that happens. But in my case, no.
Yeah.
No.
I was
my family ignores me.
Yeah, a friend of mine called me last night, right before I was getting ready to go to bed, and he says, "Hey, can you cover me for like the next 2 Fridays? Just one small thing each Friday. Take you like 2 minutes." I looked at it and it's like, "Yeah, I can take care of it, no problem." He says, "Yeah, I'm going solo camping for the next 14 days." I went, "Solo camping?" He says, "Yeah, no phone, no nothing." I said, "So what happens if something happens to you?" He says, "I guess I die." Oh, okay. There you go. Fortunately, I have access to all of his stuff, so it's no problem. So I can keep doing it even if he doesn't show back up. Okay. Everybody's still being quiet. That's okay. Everybody's on vacation. Probably in about 2 more weeks, people will start showing back up, right?
Yeah.
That's second week of September is when people start showing back up. So that's
third week.
Third week.
At least here, because first day of September is when most people get back to work. That means that there is a 2 weeks depression time. And then you get back to your, exactly, kind of like, why did this happen to me? Why so much suffering, right? But then you get used to suffering again, and then you start watching YouTube.
Maybe that's the subconscious reason why I don't take vacations, is I just don't want to go through that pain. It could be it.
It's like one of my rules is that I do like traveling for vacation, right? Exotic places, but never more than a week, because all the time I'm on vacation means that I need to recuperate. Yes, I'm not officially working, but then emails are accumulating, requests,
right.
Stuff is happening. And if I go 2 weeks of vacation, that means that I have unbearably large amount of work waiting for me. That's not good. So 1 week is okay. And then repeat 4 times a year.
Wow. I can't relate. Oh, well, that's okay. All right. Why don't we call this good for today? We should be back next Friday. Let me think about it for a second. At this point, we will be back next Friday. We might be closer back to our normal time, unless this time works out better for everybody else. And if you're watching on replay, any time is good.
Is this not the normal time? I'm not following anymore. I just click a link in my calendar. This is not the normal time.
This has not been the time that roughly we've been doing. This has been an off time for us.
Okay.
And just to clarify, if you haven't taken the survey yet, because we haven't talked about the survey today, Next up is the security. Maybe we'll find out next week. If not, still take the survey. If you haven't joined the Slack channel, please go join the Slack channel. The link to join is down below, so you don't have to type what you're seeing right now. You can just go click on the link down below. And again, that's true if you're watching on YouTube. If you stumbled across us on YouTube, thanks for stopping by. If you found us on our website, again, all the links, look down below, you'll see them. And if you don't know what our website is, it's devopsparadox.com. You can reach out to us there. All of our contact information lives, breathes on that site. Yes, it looks like it's from the 90s. Right now, that's just what it is. I'm working on a rebrand, but I don't really care at this point. It's okay. It's functional.
It could be 80s. 80s was the worst period in human history. Look-wise.
Look-wise? Well, yeah, okay.
Yeah, everybody looks ridiculous.
AOL. Oh, no. Well, see, it's... Okay, so if you're going to get into the 80s, well, we don't have time for that today. I'll just stop right there. Okay. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Again, if you're watching on the replay, thanks for hanging out. If you got more any questions for us, go join up in the Slack channel, send us an email, whatever, all of our contact on the site. Anything else? Is that it?
That's it, baby.
I'm going to go eat some lunch. Everybody have a great weekend. We'll talk to you next week.